Good evening. City Council is now in session. Please be advised that Councilman Fawcett will not be present and has been excused. Please stand for the invocation by Councilmember Butler Barlow, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I'll get you.
Thank you. Let's pray together. We gather today in humility and faith, thankful for all the blessings and mindful of all the challenges in our communities. We ask for guidance and strength, for courage and wisdom as we meet tonight. Help us to remember to act in love and with grace in service to our city. Give us patience and understanding to face the challenges of these days with grace. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Freedom of Information Act certification is required at this time. Madam Clerk, please present the resolution for consideration.
A resolution certifying the closed meeting on February 7th, 2024, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Suffolk hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of Virginia law, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the City Council of the City of Suffolk in the closed meeting.
Council, a motion would be in order. Councilman Williams.
So moved.
Got a motion for approval from Councilman Williams. Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Butler Barlow. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
Councilmember Rector, can you please cast your vote? Thank you. The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
We now move to approval of the minutes from the November 15th, 2023 work session and regular session. And let's see, and a motion would be in order. Councilman Williams.
So moved.
Councilman Rector.
Second.
A second from Councilman Rector. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to cast your vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
Motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, we have no special presentations this evening. At this time, we will consider the removal of items from the consent agenda and adoption of the entire agenda as presented. Removal of any item from the consent agenda would only be necessary if any member of City Council wishes to vote on a specific item separately, and a motion would be required. Additionally, City Manager Moore has information regarding public hearing item number 13. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of Council, excuse me. Item 13 is a public hearing to consider an ordinance authorizing the City Manager to execute a second amendment to the lease for the Whaleyville Communication Tower lease with Selco Partnership. After additional review of the proposed lease and public hearing advertisement, it is staff's recommendation to remove this item from tonight's agenda and bring the item back at a future date to be determined. At this time, I would ask City Council's consideration of a motion to remove item number 11 from this evening's agenda and to adopt the remainder of the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Just for clarity, anyone who is in attendance this evening regarding public hearing item number 13, please note that the City Manager has requested its removal from tonight's agenda and advised that the item will be considered at a later date. A motion would be in order to remove public hearing item number 13 from tonight's agenda and to adopt the remainder of the agenda as presented. Councilman Johnson.
A motion is to remove item 13 as presented and to approve the consent agenda item as proposed.
Okay, we've got a motion from Councilman Johnson, Vice Mayor Ward.
Second.
Second from Vice Mayor Ward. Is there any further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Madam Clerk, do we have any agenda speakers this evening?
No, Mayor Duman.
Okay, will you please present the items for consideration?
Consent agenda item number 7, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management for the Suffolk Department of Fire and Rescue. Consent agenda item number 8, an ordinance to accept and appropriate additional funds from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services for the 5th Judicial District Community Corrections Program. Consent agenda item number 9, an ordinance to accept and appropriate a FEMA grant from the United States Department of Homeland Security for the Suffolk Department of Fire and Rescue. Consent agenda item number 10, an ordinance to accept and appropriate additional funds from the Virginia Department of Transportation for the Nansman Parkway, Bennett's Pasture Road Intersection Improvements Project, and to appropriate and transfer funds from the General Fund Committed Fund Balance Capital Reserve Fund to the Capital Projects Fund for the required local match. Consent agenda item number 11, a resolution to accept a donation of personal property for the Suffolk Department of Fire and Rescue. And consent agenda item number 12, a resolution to endorse project applications under the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity Discretionary Grant Program for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Mr. Manager, would you please provide an overview of the items?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, in regards to item 7, city has received a grant in the amount of $21,781 from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management in support of the Suffolk Department of Fire and Rescue. Funding will be used for emergency management salary match. Adoption of this ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditure of the Consolidated Grants Fund budget by the $21,781. There is a local cash match in the amount of $21,781, which is available within the Department of Fire and Rescue's FY23-24 operating budget. In regards to item 8, the city has received funding in the amount of $4,815 from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services. These funds will be used for salary increases of the Community Corrections Program grant-funded staff in the FY23-24 budget and must be accepted and appropriated by City Council. Adoption of this ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grants Fund budget by the $4,815. There is no local cash match. Now, in regards to item 9, the city has been awarded a grant in the amount of $4,115,448 from the United States Department of Homeland Security for staffing of adequate fire and emergency response, known as the SAFER grant program. And this is to hire 18 additional firefighters. The grant pays the first 3 years' salaries of the 18 firefighters. Adoption of this ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grants Fund budget by the $4,115,448. There is no local cash match. In regards to item 10, the city has received construction bids for the Nansman Parkway, Bennett's Pasture Road Intersection Improvements Project. Due to escalating costs, an additional $3,781,123 is required for the project to move forward. The Virginia Department of Transportation has approved an additional $1,895,652 for the project with a required local match of $1,895,651. It is recommended that transfer of the available funds in the amount of the $1,895,651 be transferred from the General Fund Committed Fund Balance Capital Reserve Fund to the Capital Projects Fund. Adoption of this ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditure of the Capital Projects Fund budget by the $3,791,123, including the $1,895,652 in VDOT funds and $1,895,651 from the General Fund Committed Fund Balance Capital Reserve. In regard to item 11, the city has received a donation of personal property of a medical response access transport unit from the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission to support the Hampton Roads Metropolitan Response System and to assist the Suffolk Fire Department or the Department of Fire and Rescue in response to medical incidents. The transport unit is a MedStaff 500 off-road ambulance valued at $73,000. Adoption of this resolution will increase the fleet expenditures in the Suffolk Fire and Rescue budget by approximately $800 annual for fuel and maintenance costs. In regards to item 12, is a resolution to endorse 2 project submissions for Rebuilding America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity Discretionary Grant Program. The projects are the Suffolk Seaboard Coastline Trail, Segment C, and the Kimberly Bridge Replacement Project studies. Funding will be available in the FY 24-25. And that's it.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Manager. If there are no questions about the items, a motion would be in order to approve the consent agenda as presented. Council? Councilman Bennett?
Move for approval.
Move for approval from Councilman Bennett. Do I have a second? Councilman Rector?
Second.
Second from Councilman Rector. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Item 13, our only public hearing, has been removed from the agenda. We have no ordinances this evening, nor any resolutions. We will move to staff reports, and we do have a staff report related to the 2045 Comprehensive Plan Update. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, this evening's discussion will focus on the 2045 Comprehensive Land Use Plan Update as it relates to the master planning within our growth areas, downtown, North Suffolk, and the villages. Mr. Keith Kennedy, Principal Planner, will present. Keith?
Good evening, and thank you all again for the opportunity to keep you up to date on the progress that we're making on this update of the Suffolk Comprehensive Plan. We're going to take a little bit of a different tack this evening, whereas we've been focusing on the future land use plan and opportunities to expand the growth area boundary. We're going to talk this evening about some existing developed areas in the city that also get attention in the comprehensive plan, and we're recommending that we do that again this year, talking about downtown, the North Suffolk area, and the villages, the historic villages in Suffolk. So we'll talk a little bit about those areas, why they're important, why they're a focus of the comprehensive plan. We'll note that this has been something that Suffolk has been doing for a while. So in many cases, this is an update of an existing plan. Talk a little bit about how this is linked to the comprehensive plan. And in fact, is a further amendment to the comprehensive plan when those are brought forward. A good question, why do you focus on these areas? What makes them important or strategic? And talk a little bit about the process itself, about how you engage in one of these master plans. And finally, I'll conclude tonight with an update on our schedule to get us through the overall process. Here's a map that I'm sure that you all recognize. And again, we've been focusing on areas largely outside of the growth area boundaries, but we noted that particularly downtown and the North Suffolk area are worth attention in a master planning process going forward. We're also going to add a new map, I think, to this update of the plan, and specifically identify and talk about the historic villages in Suffolk, something we hear a lot about when we're out meeting with the community. We'll talk about how they're similar in some ways and how they're very different, and really why they're so important to Suffolk and why they are deserving of this additional attention and focus. We want to recognize the villages collectively in the comp plan, but we also want to recognize that they're each very, very unique and special in their own way. This plan will recommend that the city prepare new or update existing village scale plans for each one of those areas. There'll be a priority recommendation in the document. We'll talk a little bit about, again, broadly, what do we want those plans to achieve? We want to preserve the unique qualities of those villages. We want to continue to attract private investment to those villages. As you all know, older buildings, older homes need continued investment in them to keep them functioning and to preserve their history. We also want to focus on, as we've done in the past, what are appropriate levels of services for those villages in the form that they're in, and how we see them growing and changing going forward. So again, really nothing new for Suffolk to think about these areas. Here are the dates of the current plans that are on the books right now. There are a couple that we would be adding to that list. We think the North Suffolk area is a good candidate at some point, particularly the mixed-use core area of North Suffolk. And there are the other plans listed there with their dates. We're recommending the Hobson community, the Hobson Village as well, for a village plan going forward. So how is this linked to the plan? In some ways, they actually deal with some of the same issues. You think about land use, you think about zoning in the villages, in downtown, as I mentioned earlier, you think about infrastructure. Is it about right? Are improvements needed? And you start to set priorities. As you all know, you can't accomplish everything that's important for these areas. So you bring people together and you talk about what are our key priorities? What do we want to do first? So in some ways, it's a plan, but it's just at a smaller scale. So we want to make sure that we touch on that in this document as well. What makes an area strategic? What makes it important? Again, I don't think this will be surprising to any of you all. These are the places that everyone cares about in Suffolk. They're where people gather. I like to think of them as everybody's neighborhood. It may not be where you live, but you feel comfortable there. You gather there with your neighbors and other folks who visit in the city. They tend to be highly visible. They're at important intersections in many, many places. So people who pass through Suffolk see these places regularly. Sometimes when you ask someone where they're from, they may say Suffolk or Nansemond County. Many times they'll mention the village that they either live in or live near. So it really is kind of a identity for folks who live here. As I mentioned, folks who come to Suffolk are attracted to these places. So it's even a destination for visitors who are not here in the city. So for all those reasons, we think they're important and we continue to plan for them going forward. So what are some of the things, again, very broadly, that might be undertaken with these plans? I mentioned before, many of them are historic, so you want to make sure that particularly the commercial properties are aligned with today's market. You know, what are the things that business owners are looking for? Do these areas continue to be attractive for those uses? They get a little older and they get a little perhaps less well-maintained. So you think about increasing attractiveness and your curb appeal. Keep them attractive going forward. What are the priority kind of projects that you can focus on in those areas? As a planner who works on zoning a lot, we have a tendency to want to create a district and make it apply everywhere. In many instances, and that's good, but in many instances, the development in a village is so unique, it might need its own zoning category or maybe an adjustment to development regulations to make sure that it fits for what's unique about that district. And again, we're talking about new investment, but we also want these plans to think of ways to preserve the history and the culture that these villages represent. So those are some of the things that you focus on when you undertake these plans. Sort of how do you go about doing it? I just put a couple of phrases out there to be thinking about. Again, it's important that this be a collaborative process. You want to work with both the public interests, like the city of Suffolk, as well as private owners of property and residences. You want to make decisions based on good data. You may think, for example, you've got a parking problem. Maybe it would be good to find out, talk to business owners, see how much is in your parking inventory. So things like that, and you want to collect good data. I mentioned understanding your market. That's an important part of these. And a little bit different about this kind of plan. It's really not about policy so much, which the comprehensive plan is, but this is about actions that you can take, setting priorities to make improvements on the ground in these places. And again, make those places special, make them unique, and continue to protect that going forward. So different than a comp plan, but very, very much related to that plan as well. So again, we'll be making that recommendation. We'll talk about the importance of these areas. We'll identify them in the plan that we put back out for the public for review. And this is just kind of where we are right now in the overall process. We've got an update scheduled for this month's meeting of the Planning Commission on February 20th. We will be back in front of you all on the 21st in your work session, where we're going to actually present a summary of the entire plan. What's in there, what are the important things in this document, and post the document online, and kick off an online engagement tool that we're actually kind of road testing right now. So you can click on the map, give us some comments on the land use plan, on the growth boundary recommendations, or any of the recommendations that are included in the plan, and then go back out in open house events in March. We've got dates and venues selected to, again, keep that engagement process going with this final draft, and keep you all informed as well in the months of March and April in the Planning Commission, letting you know what we've heard, what's going well, what areas we may need to think about changing and revising, all with the goal of adoption in the spring or summer of this year. So that's where we are today. A whole lot more to come. Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Council, questions or comments? Okay, looks like you're getting off light tonight. Thank you
All
very
right,
much for your
thank you.
presentation. Okay, we next move to motions. Our first is a motion to schedule a public hearing to be held on February 21st, 2024, to receive public comment on the proposed fiscal year 2025-2034 capital improvements program and plan. And a motion would be in order. Councilman Johnson,
So move.
got a motion for approval from Councilman Johnson. Councilmember Butler Barlow,
Second.
second from Councilmember Butler Barlow. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
We also have a motion to schedule a city council work session for Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 4 p.m. unless canceled. Council? Councilman Williams?
So move.
Motion for approval from Councilman Williams. Councilman Bennett?
Second.
Second from Councilman Bennett. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
We'll now move to non-agenda speakers. Madam Clerk, do we have any non-agenda speakers? And if so, please explain the guidelines.
Yes, we do have one individual registered as a non-agenda speaker this evening. Each person participating under the item of business entitled Non-Agenda Speakers shall limit their remarks to the services, policies, and affairs of city government and shall be permitted 5 minutes for the purpose of presenting his or her matter. Speakers appearing before City Council will not be permitted to participate in the following activities: to campaign for public office, engage in personal attacks, promote private business ventures, or use profanity. Speakers who violate these rules will be declared out of order by the presiding officer and will immediately yield the floor and be seated. Dr. Kathy Gwendon, 15189 Airfield Road, Wakefield, Virginia, representing the Airfield 4-H Educational Center regarding Suffolk 4-H.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Thuman and elected council members. Thank you for allowing me here this evening. I just wanted to take my few minutes to say hello and introduce myself. I moved here from working 27 years with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and about 1 year ago became the new executive director at Airfield. Are any of you familiar with the Airfield 4-H Center? Good, great, super. So we starting at the same time as myself is your also new local 4-H agent here in the city of Suffolk, Laura Edwards. So she and I are here tonight as a united team to try and look forward to our partnership here with the City Council, your Suffolk City citizens, and trying to get more people out to Airfield. So we've entered a new rejuvenation and exciting phase for the center. It was nearly shut down with COVID, and then missed a couple summers with camp. So I just came on, I had a one-year interim, but back in September, they decided to offer me this role in a permanent capacity. So I just want to give you my 3 quick points about what we're planning for Airfield. Number 1 is we really want to try and increase the number of kids coming to summer camp. Last summer, we had 32 kids from Suffolk who were here under Laura's care, and we have plenty more room. Our numbers were actually up 17% this past summer, but we have plenty more bunks. So if we want to try and reach out to some more of the youth here in the city so that we can help to continue to promote that positive youth development that 4-H strives for. So kids come to camp, have fun, and they learn new skills outdoors, but we also sneak in those little life skills lessons that they get the chance to try and become themselves in a unique and independent way. Secondly, we do have a conference center. We're going to continue to promote our conference and retreat opportunities at the center. And then the overall goal for our board of directors and 4-H at the Airfield Center is to really start to create some new and engaging environmental education opportunities, working with schools, bringing out more field trips year-round. So we have summer camp during summer, but that's just a few months out of the year. So we've done already this year a really exciting aerospace camp. We've got a comic book camp coming up in March. In April, we're doing some outdoor education with wildlife discovery and also shooting sports. And then we segue right into summer camp. So we've got 200 acres of woods on a 100-acre freshwater lake. It's near and dear to my heart with the passions that I have and my business plan tied in nicely with what our board of directors want. And I want to take this moment to thank the city of Suffolk for the local support that you have given Airfield. In this last year, I know the local tractor supply store has really helped support us, and they also support the National Clover Campaign. And again, working with Laura, this poor lady, she doesn't really like fishing, but bless her heart, came out and did a freshwater fishing training with us just because, right, she cares about the youth that she's serving here in the city. So if you haven't been, or if it's been a long time since you've come to visit, I want to sincerely invite you to come by the center anytime. I work there. We're on site almost 7 days a week, really. And so come by, have lunch, take a tour. Just pop in if you're on 460 heading through Wakefield. We would love to have you visit. We would love to get some more folks from Suffolk involved. Hopefully you will see us again, right? We want to come back and start to work on our partnership. And if any of you know of any organizations or involved in organizations who are interested in learning a little bit more about the center, I would be happy to come and talk to those groups as well. So thank you for your time. Please
Thank you.
visit.
That concludes the speakers, Mayor.
Okay, we'll now move to new business. Madam Clerk, do we have any additions to tonight's agenda?
No, Mayor Duman.
Is there any other new business that would need to be brought before council for consideration? Council Member Butler Barlow.
Mayor, I have a motion under new business that I would like to present. And to give a little bit of background, I appreciate Keith's coverage of this in the comprehensive plan, but we have some situations around the city that I think need to be addressed more immediately than through the comprehensive plan. We have a lot of infill development that's been going on in the Chuckatuck community, Hobson community, and other areas around the city. And I'm concerned about the impact that it has on those communities. So I would like to offer a motion tonight. I move that the city manager be directed to evaluate the village center zoning district setbacks and any resulting adverse impacts the setbacks may have to abutting properties or in the neighborhood character, and to bring back a report to City Council at the June 5th, 2024 City Council meeting.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Butler Barlow. Do I have a second? Councilmember Johnson?
Second.
A second from Councilmember Johnson. Is there any discussion of the motion? Before we vote, I'd just like to wholeheartedly support this motion, having represented the Chuckatuck Borough for 10 years plus, and noticing the effect that infill development has had over the last several years. I appreciate Councilmember Butler Barlow bringing this to the forefront so we can go ahead and be in a position to gather more information and possible amendments to our UDO. So with that being said, council members, if there is no other discussion, prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
Motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask our Media and Community Relations Director, Jennifer Moore, if she has any announcements.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City Manager. I'll kick off the announcements tonight with a reminder that in observance of the President's Day holiday, Suffolk offices will be closed Monday, February 19th. Normal operation will resume Tuesday, February 20th at 8:30 a.m. Trash and recycling collection will be picked up as scheduled, and Suffolk Transit will operate their normal schedule. And the Human Resources Department is excited to share new staff promotions. Ms. Stephanie Pugh was recently selected as a Deputy City Attorney for the City of Suffolk. Before joining the city in 2019, Ms. Pugh previously worked for the Legal Aid Society of Eastern Virginia, Norfolk Public Defender's Office, Portsmouth Commonwealth Attorney, and as a private practitioner. She received her Bachelor's of Science degree from North Carolina A&T State University and her law degree from North Carolina Central University School of Law. HR is also excited to share that Ryan Singleton has expanded her role to include that of being the city's wellness consultant. Ryan joined the city in 2021 as a VRS benefits consultant and will now be adding wellness to her current role. Ryan brings over 7 years of HR experience to the city, and before her time in Suffolk, she served as the HR generalist in the private sector. And Mr. Bradley Brandel brings a wealth of experience to the Fleet and Equipment Services manager role. Mr. Brandel brings over 16 years as the assistant manager leading the day-to-day operations and has been a key contributor in managing citywide vehicle procurement and fleet asset acquisitions. The HR department is also excited to celebrate the recent milestone luncheon on January 30th to honor 13 recipients with a cumulative 325 years of dedicated service to the city of Suffolk. A catered lunch and lapel pin was provided to each of the honorees. And in honor of the 50th anniversary of the city of Suffolk, the Suffolk Police Department is excited to share the unveiling of their new commemorative badges. The new badges are temporary for 2024 and look different from that of their traditional badge. The badge contains the seal of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the officer's rank. Suffolk Fire and Rescue is excited to share the news of their new piece of equipment called the Medical Rapid Access Transport, or the MRAT. This UTV-style vehicle is equipped with a mini ambulance-type cabin that is designed for all-terrain patient rescues, event standbys, and any emergency response with limited access. The Hampton Roads Planning District Commission has donated this vehicle to the Suffolk Fire and Rescue Department to support the initiative of the Hampton Roads Metropolitan Medical Response System. And the Norfolk Admirals professional hockey team is also commemorating Suffolk, as they are highlighting our city during their annual City Series this weekend. This Friday, February 9th, and Saturday, February 10th, the Norfolk Admirals will become the Suffolk Admirals. To celebrate, they are extending a 20% off promotion for Suffolk residents and employees to attend the games. For more information, visit suffolkadmirals.com. And the Suffolk Public Works Department is introducing the final phase of automated traffic enforcement cameras, known as red light camera enforcement. These cameras are being implemented to enhance public safety by enforcing traffic laws and raising awareness about running red lights. Red light enforcement cameras will be installed at 9 intersections across the city. The first intersection to go live is located at the Lake Prince Drive and Pruden Boulevard intersection. We are currently in the 30-day warning period, which will end on March 6th. During the warning period, individuals who violate red light laws will receive a cautionary letter to their homes. Following the warning period, the violators will receive a $50 fine. The remaining 8 intersections will initiate their warning period soon, and message boards will be displayed at intersections to notify drivers. For a comprehensive list of these intersections, including details about the warning period and activation dates, please visit suffolkva.us/traffic enforcement. And the Planning and Community Development Department would like to share that their public signage advertising public hearings will have a new look. These new eye-catching signs will be significantly larger than their former version, and the standout bright orange color will ensure that they are more visible to citizens. If residents have questions regarding a sign in their neighborhood, they can contact the information for their designated city staff member, which is prominently displayed on the sign. And the Suffolk Public Library is inviting the community for feedback for their future planning by launching a 9-question survey. The survey aims at offer insight to better serve community needs and shape the library's 5-year strategic plan. The survey is available online and is open until Friday, February 23rd. In addition to the survey, Suffolk Public Library is hosting community conversations throughout the month of February, both online and in person. For a full listing of dates and locations or to complete the survey, visit suffolkpubliclibrary.com/community input. And Suffolk Public Library is also excited to celebrate Black History Month with various educational classes and events for all ages. Join them to celebrate the significant contributions and achievements of Black Americans throughout history. The events are on your screen, but the happenings include open mic sessions, crafting, Great Dismal Swamp, Underground Railroad pavilion tours, musical events, and more. For a full listing of these events, visit suffolkpubliclibrary.com. And lastly, on your screen are the various ways residents and businesses can stay connected to the city of Suffolk. Thank you and have a great night.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ward. We'll now move on to announcements from City Council. We'll start with Council Member Butler Barlow.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Glad to be back with everybody. Missed seeing everybody at the last meeting, and I think I'm staying home sort of for a little while, but appreciate you all carrying on without me. I just wanted to mention that I did go to the Agriculture Advisory Committee meeting back in the end of January, and the committee has had a lot on their plate. We talked a lot of different topics, review of some of the stuff that was discussed at the December meeting, but they continue to do good work, and hopefully will continue to give good information to City Council. Also appreciate the comprehensive plan update, and again, the focus on the villages is near and dear to my heart, and I appreciate that and look forward to more discussion on those items. On a kind of personal note, I know so many people who have had losses in the past 5 or 6 weeks, and it's too many to name, but I just think that it's a hard time of year, and there's been some really significant losses in our community, and I just want to say condolences to everybody that is going through the grieving process, and hope that everyone will find some healing and some strength in the community around them. So with that, I'll say goodnight.
Councilman Bennett.
Thank you. I'd just like to say to everyone, thanks for the reports tonight. I think we have a lot to digest in the next month, to look forward to the budget, getting prepared for the budget and all, and I hope people will go online and get energized and take a look at it, so when the public hearing comes about, they will be aware of what the proposal is being put forth, so they will have their input prior to, so I hope that people will take advantage of it being online as of today. I think that's right, Mr. Manager. The budget was put on CIP. So CIP is put online today. So I hope that everyone will go to that and take a look at that and give us your feedback. And there's a comment period in there where you can comment about what you might have suggestion or whatever, I would think. So please do that. And with that, I will say good night.
Councilmember Johnson.
I'm going to be brief, but I'm going to do it a little different tonight. First, thank you from Airfield Wakefield. We are so happy you guys came to speak to us tonight. I'm excited to know we have a 4-H coordinator in our city. 4-H was huge when I was young, and I think we're kind of losing out a little bit lately. So let's pick it back up. We're excited. It's good for the kids, good for the youth, and so many opportunities. And I hope we can work with you in making it a huge program. It's important, particularly to the ag community. Second thing, I'm going to talk about the lights for a minute. All these lights we're putting up and giving tickets. And I'm only going to do it because I, like everyone on council, has had numerous people come to us with their distaste for it. I, too, have a distaste for it. Nobody likes Big Brother looking over the shoulder. But this is what has saved our roads, guys. For one, 58 is a much, much safer road today because of these lights. We've slowed traffic down. We've decreased the accidents. I feel better driving down 58. You just have to watch the speed limit. And if you get a ticket, I'm sorry, it's your fault. We know the speed limit. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've gotten 2 on Kings Fork Road right there in front of the school. I didn't realize it was 25. It is 25. So now we know. I'm not complaining. I paid my tickets. But folks, this is a good thing. It is truly a good thing. And as we move forward in the future, I think you're going to see more and more technology take over the stoplights and technology take over us getting tickets. So there's an easy solution to it. Don't speed. Just don't speed. But know that we're doing what we think is in the best interest of the city, and I support the program. I don't support people getting tickets, but I support the program. And you can give us a hard time over a lot of things, but this is one that I think it's a good thing moving into the future. The other thing is I just want to talk to the world for a minute. There's opportunity here in the city of Suffolk. There's opportunity because my drugstore went out of business. Rite Aid on 58 has closed. We have no drugstore to get our drugs at anymore. And in the Holy Neck Borough, I've had more concern over this than anything else. So to the development community, to people out there that can make a difference, let's get a new drugstore in here. These drugstores should be jumping on this. We've got a really, really great facility on 58 that could be very, very successful. I'm sorry Rite Aid couldn't make it work, but somebody else can, sooner than later. This is so important, particularly to the older people in our community, and I happen to be one of them that goes to that drugstore every 2 or 3 days. We are really, really concerned. So if the city can help in any way, if economic development can help in any way, let's pay attention to this Rite Aid closing. Others are going to close as well, but there's a true need. There's a true need in these communities. So please, if you know anything that can make anybody look our way, let's get them to look our way. The development community should be concerned as well, because if we're going to build houses, these people have got to get the medicine from somewhere. So that's probably out of line what I just asked for, but I'm telling you, I'm upset. I'm concerned. My people in my borough are upset. We need a drugstore on Holland Road. So anything we can do to encourage it, we're going to be encouraging it. And that's the last thing. Otherwise, Valentine's Day is next week. Remember the person you love. Remember the people around you. Make sure you go out there and do something nice for people. Be careful on the roads. Don't speed. Thank you.
Councilman Rector?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's getting a little barren over here on this side of the dais, but I do want to report that I have written authorization from both Councilman Fawcett and Councilman Williams to use their comment time. But mercifully, I'm not going to use it all. I was looking at the picture of the milestone luncheon that Jennifer had up there and saw that City Manager Al Moore and Robert Lewis were both in the picture. I guess out of the 300 and some years, y'all were probably, what, about half of that? But thank y'all very, very much for your dedication and your service to the city. It's a great example of what a good place Suffolk is to be when we have people of your quality and caliber that have been willing to stay and serve the city for as long as you have. A couple of weeks ago, I attended a great and fun event that was sponsored by the Suffolk Public Library and the Suffolk Art League that was held at the Suffolk Art Museum. And it was a mystery art heist and lecture that featured a very informative lecture by a lady by the name of Ann Kenny Urban on some of the great and not so great art heist throughout history. There was also an in-house art theft that we had to solve. And there was also great food served, and it also featured a wine tasting sponsored by the locally owned Italian cellar. And it's just another great example of the creative and innovative events that our library gets involved in. And then, as we all know, Kroger has been very busy the last few weeks. We have reopened the inside of the store on Main Street. We've opened their fuel center, and we've also reopened the Kroger out there on, I guess it's University Boulevard up off of College Drive. So thank you, Kroger, for all the investments that you have made in our city. I also attended, along with the mayor, the retirement of, Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Jeff James, who'd been serving our city for what seemed like a bazillion years. I wish him a long and happy retirement, and I know that department is losing a great, dedicated, and a guy that is just loaded with more integrity than you'll find in a lot of people. And then I went to the economic forecast that was presented by the Dragus Center for Economic Analysis and Policy. About the only real takeaway from that thing was, and it's probably the same takeaway that it's been for the last few years, is that the area that our local economy is overly dependent on defense spending, and it would be nice to have a lot more private investment. And then also last week, along with Councilman Fawcett Williams and Vice Mayor Ward, and I think Mayor, you popped in, and Mr. City Manager, you also popped in. We went to the local government day up in Richmond and got an opportunity to meet with our local representatives and discuss the various legislative initiatives that our city would like to either see passed or rejected. And one of the bigger ones that we talked about with them up there was a proposal to take the approval authority potentially for solar facilities, 50 megawatts and larger, away from the local governing body and allow the approval to come from the State Corporation Commission. And I understand, Mr. City Manager, as of today, that is dead.
It's my understanding that was laid on the table last night. There is still another solar bill out there that they'll be hearing tomorrow morning in subcommittee.
Okay, thank you for that update. And then along with the mayor, last Friday, we attended a joint meeting of the Suffolk Clergy Group, SIMA, which is the Suffolk Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, and other clergy groups at Lake Prince Woods, that featured Congresswoman Ken Jenkins as the speaker to discuss various topics and to answer questions from the group. So in 1 week, I've sort of gotten to see government at 3 different levels. And personally, I prefer this level. But clearly, as you move up from this level to the state level to the federal level, things get a whole lot more complicated. And it rightfully so, because what we do affects the citizens a whole lot more directly. I think we have an easier time of potentially getting things done. And then last, but almost not least, we attended, along with the Vice Mayor, the opening of a new store downtown. It's called Next to Nothing Variety Store, and I think James, in the paper, I think you accurately described it. I told him that if you can't find what you want in there, then you probably didn't need it. I mean, they have more variety of merchandise in there than I've seen just about anywhere. And then on a local level, I don't know whether any of y'all saw in the paper, a local gal who is now attending LSU, Michaela Rose, set a new record in the 600-yard dash of 1 minute, 16.76 seconds. And you have to be young to consider 600 yards a dash. If I competed in a 600-yard dash, the starting line had better be exactly 600 yards away from the door to the emergency room of the local hospital. And then finally, this weekend is the Super Bowl, and I want to give a shout out to the family of Cole Christensen, a Suffolk product and graduate of the U.S. Army Academy, and he will be participating as a member, I believe, of the Kansas City Chiefs. And with that, I will say goodnight.
Vice Mayor Ward?
Yes, I'd like to just mention a couple of things that have been noticed around the city, especially out there in Capitol Street, all that paving. It made, and little sidewalks, make the whole community look better. I want to give the city the kudos for doing that. And I also noticed that they're doing something in College Square, and I appreciate that, because it's a difference. It make the community look better all kind of ways, and I think that some of the things that's going on as far as that, just keep doing the good job you're doing. I I'd like to thank all the people that attend my brother's funeral. Mayor came and a couple of the councilmen. Thank you so much for attending. And what happened was I was so surprised at all the calls I received and all the people that gave their condolences and all during the time. I mean, it was unbelievable that they knew about it, which I said, but everywhere I went during that last week or even now, people are giving their condolences, and I thank the city of Suffolk very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I wanted to also mention something about the Public Safety Committee. If you want to see the city at work, attend that meeting. You got some of the people's in charge of every department there, and I was so impressed the first time I went, but to see some of the details and see some of the questions and see some of the answers you receive, get in contact with the mayor or city manager. That is one meeting that will solve some of the issues and some of the problems that you want to know about the city of Suffolk. I mean, that's one of the best meetings I have seen, and they really let you know what's going on. They had to report back and had to report what they things going on in their city, not only city but their department. And I'm very impressed, Mayor, that you put that together. I think is man, it's all right. It's all right. Trust me. I wouldn't just say this for that, but you go there, they'll give you some explanations. And they'll talk about everything going on in the city. And I was very impressed again with that. I just want to also mention that, yeah, we did go next to nothing, and she was a determined person because she had some type of situations, flooding, fire, and everything. But she has a good store, and like Councilman Rector said, is full. Is full. Everything is there. So all the success for her. I hope to do well and give her support. And one thing I want to mention that we're having a town hall meeting at Fred Cherry, February 29th, 6 o'clock. Department heads will be there. Please come we're going to talk about the comprehensive plan. So please come and get some answers and get what's going on, where we going with the city of Suffolk. So like I said, February 29th, 6 o'clock, please be there. With that, I'll say God bless.
Okay, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Just a few comments. This evening, exceptional job on the presentation, giving us our initial look of the CIP. We received a written copy. That is also, as Councilman Bennett alluded to, is on our city website. Please take a look at it, read it. When you're looking at expenditures at the top, I tell folks all the time, when you're looking at expenditures at the top, that is obviously something to do, but just as importantly, look below that and see where the money's coming from. See if it's local funds, see if it's your tax dollars, see if it's bond money that we're borrowing, or see if it's grant money, if it's coming from a state or federal agency. And a typical example I always use is the airport. About 95% of that money comes from the federal government. A lot of the highway spending comes from the state funding primarily, and probably some federal funding and grants that we go over. Parks and Rec, a lot of that money comes through grants. So when you look at it, I've had people look at it and say, why are we spending $2 million on a trail when we'd rather that money be spent somewhere else? But what you have to look at is that is grant money specifically for that project, and that's what it needs to be used for. So look at look what the expenditures are. Look below it what the revenues are. If it's local tax dollars that are being spent on some initiative that you feel like would be better spent somewhere else, those are the type of things that you need to talk to your council representative about, or you can email and call me as well, and we'll take a look at it. That's what this time is for right now, between now and the public hearing. It's hard to come to a public hearing and wait to see what our citizens have issues with and then be expected to vote on it immediately after a public hearing. So it's much better for everybody sitting up here, for our citizens to do a little bit of due diligence and look what's in there. And if you plan on speaking, let somebody know first, is what I would prefer, what you would like to speak to, and possibly have a discussion as to what we may or may not be able to do with it. I also wanted to applaud the new zoning notice signs. Or excellent. I don't know what the dimensions are, but that's been a point of contention over the last couple of years or so. They're small. I didn't see them. They blew over. I mean, whatever it is. So this is another way for us to be, it's small, but all the little small things add up to the big things. We've changed a lot of processes over the last 12 to 18 months to be more transparent, to provide more time for our citizens to react and for us to receive their input. This is just another little small thing. Put a bigger sign up there. Hopefully everybody sees it. And then once they see it, they can go online. They can see what it refers to. And if they have any questions, then they can, once again, call your city council representatives. That's what we're here for. The red light cameras, I was reading up on that. One thing you need to be cognizant of is that it's my understanding, like when you come to an intersection, and Mr. Lewis can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read when you come to an intersection where you have to stop before you turn right, that camera's going to pick you up if you just kind of slide through there without coming to a complete stop. And I will tell you, I'm guilty of that. I do Kings Fork Road every morning. I go through the school zone every single morning. Every single morning, I go through the school zone. I go to Route 10 and take a right, and without me thinking about it, I mean, I haven't gotten a citation yet because I'm very aware of it, because I normally will roll through there. If there's somebody in front of me, they pull out and go, and I look down, there's nobody coming, I just roll right behind them. So once again, these traffic enforcement initiatives that we have, what we call force multipliers for our police department, I don't want anybody to get a citation. I'd rather have nobody speed. I'd rather have nobody go through a red light. So just be aware of what you're doing. I know I am. I know the folks that go, and Councilman Johnson, I don't know how you got to take it to Kings Fork, because everybody hits the brakes. If you're not careful, you're going to run into the back of somebody. I showed a picture to the manager not too long ago, and I had to take a picture of my digital speedometer. The lady in front of me was doing 14 miles an hour. She did 14 from the time of that light all the way to Route 10. It took about an hour and a half for me to get to work. But people are becoming aware of it. We went through this at our Public Safety Committee meeting. I mean, one of the things we talked about was the speed enforcement initiatives, where we were, where we are. I mean, in particular instances, we went from 11,000 citations to 1,000. I mean, people are figuring it out. It's working. In the 8 months prior to the implementation of the speed enforcement cameras to 8 months after, we've had 28 less accidents on Route 58. That's significant. 28 less accidents. So it's working. Yes, nobody likes to get a citation. I don't like to get them either. I get them all the time from Chesapeake with people in my rental cars. I got 3 in a day, so Chesapeake's got it. And I was just talking about red light cameras. I think we're limited to 10% of the population, and since we went over 100,000, we should be able to go from 9 to 10. Robert's shaking his head, maybe so. Okay, so we'll look into that also. And red light cameras, I really, school zones and red light cameras, I don't have a whole lot of forgiveness for. The work zones, I mean, it is a little tough if you're used to doing 10 miles. Most people that feel like they're obeying the law is anything under 10 miles over the speed limit. The people that are not are doing 20 miles over the speed limit. So if you're already doing 20 miles over, you hit a 45 that's now a 35, you're going to have to slow down by about 30 miles an hour. So it's a significant stop. But just be aware that they're there. I think it's working. It's doing what we wanted it to do.
Mayor,
Yes.
Robert wanted to know what intersection that was again that you're sliding through.
I said I used to. That was before the cameras. Kings Fork and 10. But I've got another trick now. I turn before Publix and take that road all the way out to Centerbrook almost. It works really well. No side. But anyhow, a couple of things that went on. Jeff James' retirement. I know Jeff being in the birding club with him. He's a great guy, and I'm sure he was a huge asset to the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. We do have a new Kroger Fuel Center. I think that's the last ribbon cutting we need to do at Kroger. But it's a very nice fuel center. You can use your points right there, and you can pick up water or a pack of cigarettes or whatever out there. They did a good job on it. I was a little concerned as to how it would look in the parking lot, but they did a really nice job. It's very clean, and I think it's another little amenity that we'll have for our citizens. Councilman Rector and others mentioned VML, the manager, myself, and our Deputy Manager Hughes. We rode to Richmond. We left at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I went up there primarily for one reason, and that was to engage with the Deputy Secretary of Transportation, and we also ended up speaking to the Secretary of Transportation in regards to lobbying for transportation funding, specifically on the 460 corridor. I think it was a fairly productive visit. Didn't start off that way, but I think we ended up all right. So we'll see. Cautiously optimistic there. We've got Miss Emily Brewer, Miss Emily Jordan now, lobbying for us as well, and she's got a little bit of pull there, and everyone I've spoken to has been very supportive, so we'll see what happens. Zoe Ministries, along with SEMA, Councilman Rector mentioned the forum that was at Lake Prince Woods. Lake Prince Woods did an excellent job hosting that. Congresswoman Kiggins was there. We talked about a lot of local issues. As a matter of fact, a lot of their questions that they directed to Congresswoman Kiggins. I'm glad I was there and the Councilman Rector was there because they were really local issues. I mean, the federal government is in charge of the big stuff and mainly some money. But like who was Newt Gingrich, somebody said, all politics is local, and it really is. Most of the issues they had concerns with. And they also brought up issues that they had addressed to us that actually have to do with the school system. You know, it's the school board that runs that show. It's not us. It's amazing how many people think. I had somebody come to me 3 days ago about an issue with a particular school, and I said, you know, I'd like to help you. I can refer you to someone. But those of you that have issues that relate to schools at all need to know who your school board member is. You need to contact them, and they should be advocates for you in regards to addressing your concerns. And with that, I was just going to mention, Councilman Record, you mentioned a 600-yard dash or something. In my case, it would be a 600-yard marathon because it would take about the same amount of time. So before I do our quote of the night, I was looking back through the calendar, and January 27th was International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And it's amazing that over time, that really doesn't get the attention that it really should. Approximately 11 to 12 million people were executed by the Nazis during that period. 11 to 12 million, not 100,000, not thousands, million. About 6 million of them Jews and about 5 to 6 million others, which very seldom get mentioned. The others were, and I just pulled this up, it's a little Wikipedia thing, Soviet prisoners of war, 3.3 million. Non-Jewish ethnic Poles, 1.8 million. Romani women and children, typically known as gypsies, anywhere from 250,000 to 500,000. Serb civilians, more than 310,000. People with disabilities living in institutions and care facilities, 250 to 300,000, including 10,000 children. German political opponents, tens of thousands. Germans imprisoned in concentration camps as professional criminals, 35,000. Jehovah's Witnesses killed in, Jehovah's Witnesses killed in concentration camps or executed for refusing to serve in the German military, over 2,000. Gay men, bisexual men, and other men accused of homosexuality, thousands. And last but not least, black people in Germany. Number unknown, perhaps thousands. This came right out of Wikipedia. I'm not making this stuff up. But it hasn't been mentioned, which just kind of blows my mind. But even though, I mean, we need to make sure that we don't forget. It's kind of mind-boggling as to something like that, as to how something like that could have actually occurred. 11 to 12 million people basically exterminated. So, on a positive note, my quote of the night is by U.S. Representative Tim Holden, and it also refers to the Holocaust. And that is, the Holocaust illustrates the consequences of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping on a society. The consequences of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping on a society. It forces us to examine the responsibilities of citizenship and confront the powerful ramifications of indifference and inaction. And then with that, I will say good evening and ask for a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Butler Barlow.
So moved.
Got a motion for adjournment from Councilmember Butler Barlow. Councilman Johnson.
Second.
Second from Councilman Johnson. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 6-0.
This meeting stands adjourned.